Revealed, 3 sinister true desert horror stories that will haunt you with unexplained terror. Anna could feel the heat of the sun retreating as twilight descended upon the ghostly desert. It was an unforgiving landscape, one that had witnessed more horrors than the town whispered about. But nothing prepared her for the feeling of being watched, or the unsettling whispers echoing through the night. A chill crept down her spine, sending her heart racing, each beat faster as the shadows lengthened ominously. The desert wasn't just a backdrop to her new life, it held secrets that clawed at the edges of her reality. Tommy, her sensitive 14-year-old, had been told bedtime stories about the beauty of this vast land, but here, it felt wrong. As Anna settled into their humble home, a chunk of her past threatened to slice through the thin veil of safety she'd tried to weave. Memories of screams and broken bottles lurked in her mind with every creak of the floorboards and gust of wind rattling the windows. It felt as if the desert had its own heart, thumping beneath the sand, beckoning her closer with each passing moment. The diner, with its flickering neon sign and battered booths, became both her refuge and a source of lurking dread. Friends there eyed her with feigned curiosity, sketching worries in the wake of Tommy's increasing oddities. "Did you hear about those disappearances?" murmured Rachel from behind the counter, her hands trembling as she poured coffee. Anna pricked her ears. 3 families had vanished, swallowed by the desert as if they were mere echoes of laughter dissipating into the night. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Returning home that night, Anna found Tommy facing the window, entrapped in darkness, eyes reflecting something beyond her comprehension. "Mom, there's a boy he's calling to me," he whispered, voice shaky as a tremor buzzed through her. "He needs my help." Her heart thundered. A boy? Out there? She stepped closer, instinctually protecting him from forces unseen. But Tommy's voice dripped with sincerity, while shimmering lights danced outside, playful but sinister. Panic gripped her when she looked out into the nothingness. Shimmers flickered and faded like winking eyes. She could almost hear the desert howl, a mix of terror and unnameable sorrow. "Tommy, you can't go out there." Anna's voice shattered the night silence. "It's dangerous." The air thickened, laced with an eerie desperation that clawed at her sanity. An icy wind swept through the open window, carrying with it the whispers, the inexplicable echoes of the disappeared. Each rustling breeze felt like fingers pulled at Anna's nape, urging her to succumb to the terror. She had to keep Tommy safe from whatever menace lurked beyond the dunes. Yet as she turned, the shadows seemed to swirl, growing denser, more charged with the weight of something ancient. It was a warning, a sign that the heart of the desert was not merely alive, but watching, waiting. The nightmare wasn't far away, it was closing in fast, and soon, Anna would uncover the truth about their new home and the curse that wrapped around it like a noose, tightening with each heartbeat. Would she find the strength to save Tommy from a fate etched in the sand? The shadows thickened as Anna turned back to Tommy, her heart pounding. The room felt suffocating, heavy with dread, the walls closing in around them. "Let us go outside. We'll find whatever you think you saw," she suggested, though deep down, she wanted to shield him from the darkness beyond. As they made their way toward the door, the desert's howling winds intensified, an unholy symphony that seemed to echo Tommy's call. Every wind gust dragged creeping cold fingers against her skin, and dread clawed at her chest. She glanced at her son, whose young face was illuminated by the neon glow reflecting from the diner. "You stay close, no matter what," she warned, her voice tight. Stepping outside felt like crossing a threshold into another world. The moon hung low, casting elongated shadows that danced like phantoms across the sand. For a moment, the eerie landscape seemed tranquil, like the calm before a storm. An unsettling realization washed over her: this beauty was a deceptive veil hiding something horrible. "Where is he?" Tommy's voice was barely above a whisper, his eyes darting to the horizon, scanning for invisible dangers. "He was here, calling Tommy, we need to go back inside." "It's late," Anna urged, a twinge of panic slipping into her tone. But before she could pull him back, that distant, soft whisper reached her ears again. It wasn't he coming from the boy, though. It was a chorus of mournful voices drifting through the night like haunted whispers seeking an audience. Every instinct told her to flee, but she stood frozen, the voices weaving through her thoughts. "Mom," Tommy said, trembling. "Listen." She listened hard, desperate to discern the words, urging him to stay close. The hair on the back of her neck stood straight, a cold sweat pooling in her palms. Shadows swirled, dark forms shifting in the distance, teasing her vision. With each heartbeat, dread pooled inside her, a weight pressing down on her chest. Suddenly, Tommy gasped, "There." He pointed toward a faint flicker beyond the dunes. A small, brittle light danced on the waves of sand. Anna squinted into the darkness, her heart racing. The light pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat of the desert itself, and with it came a low, drawn-out moan that felt almost like laughter. "Stay here," she commanded, knowing full well how futile it might be. Yet something in her pulled her forward, curiosity battling terror. Tommy's hand slipped from hers, and fear clamped down on her throat as she watched him dart toward the light. "No! Come back!" she screamed, panic pouring into her voice. He was moving toward the light, entranced, a moth drawn unwittingly into the flame. In that moment, the desert roared with laughter, a cacophony of voices weaving in and out, a tempest of lost souls. They sang a dreadful lullaby, the soft sound luring Tommy deeper into the night. Anna felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, the desert alive and eager, starved for the essence of innocence. "Tommy! Please!" she begged, racing after him, heart in her throat. Every step felt heavy, the ground seemed to pull her back as if it had its own cravings. Then, just as quickly as the light appeared, it vanished, leaving only an eternal darkness that swallowed the desert. She stumbled to a stop, scanning the empty sands, breath hitching painfully in her throat. "Tommy!" Silence. The only response was the wind's cold embrace, sending needles of fear into her skin. She felt a monstrous presence loom behind her, something ancient and unfathomable. A sharp chill shot through her, and she turned, dread pooling in her stomach. She couldn't see it, but she could feel it, the desert watching, waiting for the moment to take what was precious. If she didn't find Tommy soon, would she be next to vanish beneath the sands, just another story whispered in the shadows? The stillness wrapped around Anna like a suffocating blanket. She could feel every heartbeat, every breath, ringing out in the oppressive silence. "Tommy!" she called again, her voice cracking like fragile glass. There was no answer, just the wind, howling mournfully as if mocking her fear. Each grain of sand whispered warnings as she hesitated. Should she head toward the flicker, that unholy light? Or stay in the safety of the diner, waiting for her boy to come back? The choice twisted inside her like a vice. In the distance, the silhouette of a dark figure emerged and her breath caught in her throat. It stood there, unmoving, blending into the night, its form barely defined against the shadowy expanse. Panic surged as she realized it was not the heat shimmer playing tricks, this was something very real. "Tommy!" she screamed again, her fear igniting her into action. She sprinted toward the specter, her legs pumping hard against the sand, each stride painful but driven by desperation. As she drew closer, the figure shifted slightly, a flicker of recognition ignited hope, but it was extinguished just as quickly when she saw the face. It was not Tommy. The figure stared back with sunken eyes and a wide, haunting grin that seemed to stretch far beyond the limits of a normal human mouth. Shadows clung to it, swirling like a storm around its form. Anna felt nausea well up inside her. "What do you want?" she yelled, feeling the weight of dread trying to suppress her voice. The being stood still, and a chorus of whispers erupted from its mouth, a cacophony of cries that echoed Tommy's name, their grotesque serenade, a dark invitation to danger. Then, out of the chaos, she heard something familiar above the whispers. A faint giggle, soft and innocent. Hope flared momentarily before dread washed over her again. "Tommy!" she cried, this time more pleading, her voice barely a whisper. Without thinking, Anna turned and launched herself back toward the darker side of the dunes, heart racing wildly. The strange entity shifted, the whispers becoming louder, merging into a single haunting call as if urging her to stay. As she reached the spot where the light had danced only moments before, panic bubbled inside her. "Come on, Tommy. Where are you?" But the ground felt wrong under her feet, the sand shifting, pulling her closer to the earth. She could feel tendrils of the darkness wrapping around her ankles, like icy fingers trying to drag her down. "No. Not you!" she yelled, fighting against the pull, digging her fingers into the sand to find purchase. Anna's mind raced. "I'm coming for you, Tommy. Just hold on." The faint giggle returned, so close, so tantalizingly within reach. The desert was alive, whispering, tempting her. Was it really him? Or was it another cruel trick? Unsure, she pressed on, heart thundering in her chest. Then, in the moonlight, a flicker caught her eye. A flash of white near the old rusted Jeep abandoned on the edge of the diner parking lot. Was that him? She stumbled toward it as the shadows shifted once more, forming walls around her, the night closing in. "Tommy, I'm coming!" she cried, her breath escaping in jagged gasps. With sheer will, she tore her gaze from the encroaching darkness, focusing only on the white flicker, her last hope. But suddenly, the giggle morphed into a howl, a bone-chilling sound piercing the night. Then all at once, silence fell, deep and penetrating. Just before she reached the Jeep, the darkness surged around her, and with it came a sharp, freezing wind that knocked her off her feet. Anna landed hard on the sand, gasping. Tommy, the desert seemed to whisper, "Come outside and play." The chilling laughter from the shadows echoed in her ears, and she realized with horror, she was not alone. Would she ever escape the grasp of the unseen? Or had she already lost more than she could bear? Anna pushed herself up, the sand scratching her palms as she scrambled to her feet. The air was thick with dread, heavy like a blanket soaked in darkness. Her heart raced, not just from the fall but from the chilling laughter that still echoed in her mind. It mingled with the howls of the wind, forming a wicked symphony that made her stomach churn. "Tommy," she croaked, but her voice was barely more than a whisper, lost in the vastness of the desert night. She peered into the shadows, terrified of what she might find. The empty parking lot was now a theater of nightmares, every abandoned car seeming to loom closer, as if drawn by some unseen force. Panic surged anew. The flicker, the glint of white, where had it gone? She needed to find him. She had to. With trembling legs, she stepped toward the rusted Jeep, each crunch of sand beneath her feeling like a warning bell ringing in the silence. "Tommy!" she called again, hope quivering in her chest like a candle flame in a storm. Shadows twisted around her, dark figures hovering just beyond the corners of her vision, always retreating when she looked directly at them. The desert was alive with whispers. Was it just the wind? Or something else? Straining to hear, she caught snippets of familiar laughter swirling around her, taunting yet sweet. It made her heart ache. Then suddenly, the darkness in front of the Jeep rippled, like the surface of a disturbed pond. Anna froze, a sense of dread washing over her like ice water. The outlines of figures began to form, faces twisting into grotesque masks of mirth and malice. They beckoned her with long, bony fingers, their grins stretching impossibly wide. "Join us," they chanted, their voices a haunting chorus. "No!" Anna shouted, shaking her head violently. The laughter escalated, almost desperate, their chilling delight filling the air. She wanted to run, but her legs felt anchored in place. Anna took a deep breath, forcing herself to break the spell. She turned abruptly and sprinted towards the diner, her feet flying over the sand, not daring to look back. Each breath felt like fire in her lungs, each step heavier than the last. She reached the door and pulled it open, rushing inside. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. The light flickered and dimmed as if responding to her fear. The diner felt wrong, almost too quiet, too empty. A memory drew her gaze to the counter, where the jukebox sat collecting dust. The music once filled the room with cheer but now felt like an echo from a time she couldn't reach. "Tommy, please." She called into the stillness. "Come on." Silence swallowed her words, amplifying her desperation. The flickering light cast eerie shadows that danced on the walls, shaping figures that twisted and taunted. Suddenly, the door creaked open behind her. Anna spun around, breath hitching. A gust of cold air swept through, snuffing out the last flicker of light. The darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating, wrapping itself around her like a noose. And then she heard a soft shuffle, something dragging across the floor, whimpering, feeble. Her heart fluttered wildly as she stood frozen, every instinct screaming to run. "Tommy?" She forced out, voice quivering. The shuffling grew louder, closer, until she could see a figure stumbling into the darkness. "Mommy?" The small voice pierced her heart like a dagger, filled with fear and confusion. But the boy stepping out was not Tommy. The small, gaunt figure had hollow cheeks, eyes wide and void of innocence, as if it had witnessed horrors beyond comprehension. "Oh no," Anna whispered, backing away even as the figure reached for her. "Play with us," it said, the voice more sinister than she could bear. Anna was trapped, the shadows closing in again, the laughter returning, hungry and relentless. Despair swallowed her whole as she realized the truth: there was no escape. Where was Tommy? Had she lost him to this twisted game? As the laughter crescendoed, Anna felt the darkness pull at her, preparing to swallow her whole. She gritted her teeth, ready to fight. But could she truly escape what the desert had awakened? The splits of laughter echoed in her mind, a deadly rhythm. In the void, a chilling thought flickered: what if there was no way out, and she was destined to join the shadows forever? The shadows circled Anna like hungry wolves, stalking their prey with a maddening glee. The small figure stood before her, its skin stretched taut over its bones, grinning like it found pleasure in her fear. Anna's heart pounded loud enough to drown out the soft whispers, but the air still filled with their cruel melody. "Play with us," the creature repeated, its voice slithering through the diner like smoke. Instinct kicked in, and Anna stumbled backward, colliding with the jukebox. The moment sent a wave of static through the air. It sputtered to life, filling the space with an old, crackling tune that seemed utterly out of place in this hellish moment. "Stay back!" she shouted, raising an arm as a weak defense. She could feel an icy sweat beading on her brow, the chill of fear paralyzing her limbs. The laughter roared back, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. Forcing herself to look away from the creature, Anna turned toward the door. It appeared heavier now, as if the darkness were anchoring it shut. She pushed against it, but it didn't budge. Her panic surged. "Tommy! Where are you?" Her voice cracked under the strain, every syllable laced with desperation. The figure advanced with a slow, twisted gait, its large eyes glinting in the faint light. "He wants to play too. Join us and be free." Anna squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head violently. Images flooded her mind, memories of laughter, of Tommy's bright smile, the very essence of innocence and joy. "Tommy is not here," she screamed, her voice tinged with defiance. The shadows around the diner thickened, draping over her shoulders like chains. The flickering lights above warped her surroundings, casting grotesque shapes that twisted unnaturally. Suddenly, the jukebox skipped a record and the music abruptly cut out. A deafening silence followed, pressing down on her like a lead weight. "Mom!" The voice was unmistakably Tommy's, but it came from somewhere deep within the darkness. Anna's heart leapt, instinctively drawn toward the sound. "Help me," he cried, the pitiful plea cutting through the suffocating dread. "Tommy!" she yelled. "Where are you?" Adrenaline surged, filling her with a renewed sense of purpose. She fought the urge to crumble, to give in to the horrific display surrounding her. With a sudden burst of resolve, Anna charged toward the source of her son's voice, driven by the flickering hope that she could still find him. The figure in the diner howled, its maw stretching impossibly wide, laughter erupting like thunder. Outside, the wind howled louder, sand swirling in furious eddies. The night seemed to pulse with dark energy, and Anna stumbled, her foot catching on something unseen. She fell, hitting the ground hard, instantly conscious of the cold sting creeping through her limbs. But the shadows didn't wait. Rising like a dark tide, they surged toward her as she scrambled to regain her footing. Desperate breaths filled her lungs with burning air as she clawed her way back to the door, grabbing it with both hands and pushing with every ounce of strength she had left. It gave way, the door bursting open, and she was thrown backward into the night. The desert air hit her like ice, stinging her cheeks, but there was no time to relish the escape. She ricocheted off the door frame, pushing herself upright just in time to see the silhouettes pouring out after her, laughing and beckoning with outstretched hands. "Tommy!" she cried again, frantically scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. The laughter grew louder, swirling and wrapping around her, coaxing her back. Then she froze. A figure emerged from the sand, small and frail. "Mommy?" It whispered again, and Anna's heart surged. But this time, she couldn't tell if it was her son or another dark mimicry. A single piercing question raced through her mind: would she have to embrace the very darkness she feared to save him? The laughter rose in a maddening crescendo, pulling at Anna's sanity. She turned, running without knowing where she was headed, the cries echoing in her ears. As she ran, the shadows slithered behind her, whispering the promise of something worse than death. Would she make it to her son before it was too late? A chill curled at the base of her spine. The night was far from over, and the real horror was just beginning. Anna dashed through the suffocating darkness, her breath coming in jagged gasps. The scouring wind whipped against her face, carrying an echo of that terrible laughter which clung to her like a shroud. Each step sent waves of dread crashing over her, urging her to stop. She fought against it, for Tommy's voice still lingered in her mind, desperately clawing for her attention. "Mommy!" The call faded with each heartbeat, but she pressed on, heart hammering in her chest, fueled by the fear of losing him forever. What she saw through the swirling sand felt unreal, blurred shapes and shadows that seemed to morph and twist just before her eyes. It was as if the night itself conspired to deceive her. The horizon shimmered with the dim light of what might have been stars, but they were obscured by ominous clouds, erasing hope. Anna stumbled, falling to her knees, fingers digging into the coarse ground. "Tommy," she sobbed, each cry mingling with the wind, desperate and raw. The chilling silence answered her, even more terrifying. "Play with us," the sinister voice slithered from the shadows, as if the darkness itself was speaking, inviting her to join its grotesque game. It felt like a finger tracing her spine, cold and insistent. She shook her head vigorously, clenching her fists until her nails bit into her palms. The ground around her rumbled, and a vast shape rose from the swirling sands, an impossibly twisted figure of countless faces, each screaming in hushed tones. The abyss of eyes glistened, filled with malice. "They want to play," it hissed, the words wrapping around her like barbed wire. "No!" she screamed, dragging herself away, but the shadows tightened their grip. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but she was ensnared, caught in a web of darkness that pulsed with malevolent energy. "Mommy!" It was Tommy's voice again, clearer this time, closer. It sliced through the terror hanging thick in the air, igniting a flicker of determination deep within her. She had to push through. The shadows could not have him. She refused to let that happen. With a surge of strength, Anna forced herself upright, her legs trembling beneath her. She could feel the eyes watching and waiting. "I'm coming, Tommy," she yelled, launching herself forward with renewed vigor. The laughter swelled behind her, louder, twisted with glee. They were almost delighted at her struggle, and it fueled her desperation. She tore through the darkness, her heart pounding in tempo with the ghostly symphony that surrounded her. Each step felt like a mile, yet she felt the pull of a familiar warmth ahead. Just a bit further. She pushed herself harder, hungry for the sight of her son. The laughter faltered slightly, and in its place, she thought she detected the faintest hint of a cry, frayed and breathless. As she crossed an invisible barrier, the air exploded with brightness. Anna shielded her eyes and stumbled forward into a small clearing. There, bathed in the pale glow of moonlight, stood Tommy, little more than a silhouette, but it was him. "Tommy!" she gasped, stepping toward him, every ounce of dread melting away. But then, he froze, staring directly past her. Fear tightened its choking grip around Anna's throat. The shadows halted, swirling behind her like a dark tide, writhing with glee. And then she heard it, a whisper, seductive and sinister, curling into her ear, "You can join him. Give yourself to us." Anna's heart dropped. She could feel the chilling fingers of doubt creep into her mind. But she had come so far. She wouldn't give in. Mommy. Tommy reached for her, but the shadows shivered, and he was enveloped in an instant, the sweet light dimmed to darkness. The laughter exploded around her, a cacophony of tormented souls. She stood at the precipice, the darkness urging her closer, but the choice weighed heavily on her. Her son was there, but at what price? Could she save him without losing herself in the process? The shadows writhed, clawing at the edges of her sanity. The final decision hung in the air, fraught with terror, a question without answer echoing. Through the night, what would be the cost of love? Anna's heart raced, her lungs burning as she stood in the unnerving glow surrounding her son. Desperation gripped her tighter than the shadows behind. "No! I won't let you take him!" she screamed, eyes darting around, searching for some way to pull him back from the abyss encroaching on their moment of reunion. Tommy's silhouette quivered, flickering like a weak flame caught in a relentless wind. "Mommy." His voice was thin and choked, overwhelmed by a burgeoning fear that echoed the pulse of the encircled darkness. Panic coursed through Anna, her instincts surged. She couldn't let him just vanish again. "Hold on, Tommy." She lunged forward, reaching out, fingers desperate to grasp his small hand. A moment of hope flickered, but the moment she stepped closer, the air thickened, wrapping around her like a serpent, dragging her back. It felt cold, suffocating, an invisible grip that pulled her away from him. "Come play with us," came the chorus, the unearthly gleeful timbre chilling her bones as it surrounded her. The abyss of eyes shifted, swirling into a mass of whispering chaos that crawled beneath her skin, multiplying her dread. "Together forever." She shook her head violently, trying to shake off the invasive thoughts clawing for her. They wouldn't have her. Not now. No. Anna screamed, her own voice a lifeline against the encroaching shadows. The chant rose and fell, wrapping tight around her, trying to ensnare her will. "Tommy!" she cried, feeling the warmth of the moment slip away. The void behind her stirred, a monstrous figure emerging from the rolling darkness, its many faces twitching and curving into grotesque grins. "Join us. Become one of us," it cried, the resonant voices intertwining, descending into harmonies that painted a picture of despair. "Let him go." She fought the pull, her feet struggling against the grip of despair. Taking a deep breath, she pushed against the suffocating weight and lunged towards her son once more. "Reach for me, Tommy. We can break this." His terrified eyes shone with tears, and for a brief moment, they connected. As he extended his hand, the shadows writhed, recoiling for a heartbeat before lunging forth, snapping around him like hungry vipers. "Mommy!" His cry was a dagger, slicing through her resolve. A surge of fury ignited within Anna. They couldn't take him. They held only lies. "No!" she shrieked, shattering the darkness holding her with sheer will. With every ounce of strength she could muster, Anna reached deep inside herself, an unknown force igniting her presence. The shadows writhed, twisting and shrinking back, disturbed by the flickering light of her fierce love. "Tommy!" she called again, feeling her voice slice through the darkness, cutting deeper until she could feel its shivers of fear against the edges of her mind. As if her words were a spell, the darkness hesitated. Tommy blinked, hope piercing through his fear, and he took a step closer, lifting his small hand toward hers. She would not let this be the end. She would not lose him to that void. But as he reached, the figure behind Anna twisted, its mouth stretching into a horrific rictus. "You can't break our bond. You will sacrifice." Panic coursed through her, but she stood her ground, her heart thrumming in defiance. She could feel the tendrils of dark snapping at her heels, hungry for her resolve. "I'd rather die than abandon him," she screamed, her spirit igniting a fire within. With determination surging, Anna pulled Tommy towards her, but dread rose as a heavy shadow lunged. In that heartbeat, the moment stretched. "Mommy!" he cried, and the silhouette flickered again, threatened to extinguish for good. The very fabric of the night howled, darkness swirling in a frenzy around them. Anna's breath caught as she realized the truth. It wasn't just Tommy they wanted, they hungered for her, too. Suddenly, just as they were about to touch, the world seemed to crumble. The shadows erupted into a terrifying roar that shook the ground beneath them. A blazing light fractured the void, a blinding pulse of energy rushing between mother and child. But what would emerge from the ashes? As the darkness wailed and howled, Anna opened her eyes, the world shifting. She glimpsed a glint of light, but it was unclear, was it hope or just another trick of the abyss? Something shifted in the air, and buried deep in her gut, a haunting thought solidified. Have you really escaped? Or is this just the beginning of your nightmare? The shadows promised. Anna took a shaky breath, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle around her like a shroud. She had to find out, but at what cost? The glowing blur finally faded, leaving Anna standing still, breathless, as if emerging from a fog. She squinted against the sudden dimness, the air around her thickening with loss and fear. Where was Tommy? Her heart sank as she didn't see him, her frantic gaze darting through the encroaching shadows trying to reclaim their territory. "Tommy!" she called out, her voice echoing thinly, wavering in the tense silence. An overwhelming dread settled in her chest, squeezing tighter with every empty moment. The once vibrant world had transformed into a twilight realm, colors muted and shadows stretching ominously. Each creaking floorboard beneath her felt like a warning. Anna's instincts screamed at her to move, to run, even though she had no direction. She retraced the steps that had led her almost to him, her breath quickening, the cold creeping in. The walls whispered unintelligible secrets, taunting her, filling her with a primal fear. No, not again. A chilling draft rolled through, wrapping around her like icy fingers. It carried whispers, all too familiar, seductive. "You shouldn't have interfered, Anna. He belongs with us now." Her skin prickled at the sound, a chorus of voices, sinister and ecstatic. Her heart raced as she spun around, expecting to see the figure behind her, but the space remained empty, taunting. "Where is he?" she screamed, desperation clawing her throat. A deep silence enveloped her, punctuated only by the pulsating thrum of her heartbeat. "What do you want from us?" "Only what is ours," the disembodied voices sang, a slow, discordant melody spiraling around her. Anna's thoughts spiraled into chaos. She felt disoriented, hunted, she was both prey and warrior in this twisted game. In her mind flashed fragments of warmth, Tommy's laughter, his soft curls, the way he would cling to her when storm clouds loomed. No! I won't let this happen. Her defiance rang out, louder now, solidifying her resolve. Stepping cautiously, she ventured deeper into the unsettling dimness, aware the shadows twisted in wait. Every creak of the old house threatened to swallow her whole, but she pushed onward, determined to find her son. Each stride felt weighty, as if the very ground resisted her, whispering of her impending doom. Yet, beneath the dread, a spark ignited. Was it courage or fear? Didn't he matter? She needed him. That instinct blazed brighter than the smothering darkness. A flickering light appeared ahead, beckoning. It hovered just beyond her reach, haloed by the yawning abyss surrounding her. Tommy! She cried out again, the name bursting from her like a desperate prayer. The aura behind the light shifted ominously. A shadow danced cruelly at its edges, flickering like broken dreams. Frantically, Anna strained her eyes, hoping to see his familiar face. What was taking him so long? Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled. The house shuddered, wood groaning in protest. The darkness around her swirled violently, threatening to swallow her in a haze of despair. Then, from nowhere, a sound pierced the veil of chaos. A faint, fragile giggle. Mommy! Her heart leaped. Confusion and joy tangled within her. Was this real? Or was it another cruel deception? Tommy! Anna took another step forward, yearning to embrace that sound. But all at once, the giggle twisted, reshaping into something sinister. Echoes of mocking laughter engulfed her, and she fell back, hands reflexively shielding her face. Join us, Anna. Forever in the abyss they crooned, their voices wrapping around her, seductive in their darkness. I want tea. She screamed, the conviction hammering through with each swirl of approaching shadows. I'll find him. Gritting her teeth, she steeled herself against the tide of anxiety. She was losing this battle. But maybe not the war. With each breath, she braced for the digging shadows at her heels, unsure if she could fight them alone. She wouldn't let fear win. She had to believe. But in that moment, the light flickered, dimming as the shadows surged forward, hungry and insatiable. Anna froze, a cold sweat breaking out across her skin. Was this the end, or merely the beginning of something even more unfathomable? The shadows lunged, wrapping tighter around Anna. The laughter morphed into a cacophony, reverberating in her ears like nails on glass. Where are you, Tommy? Panic clawed at her throat, every fiber of her being screaming to flee. Yet she couldn't, not while the light offered a glimmer of hope. With trembling fingers, she reached toward the dim glow ahead. Each inch felt monumental, pulling against the oppressive darkness that surrounded her. She could almost hear Tommy's voice breaking through the layers of despair, calling to her from a further distance, a haunting echo she couldn't chase. Then the ground shook violently. Dust rained down like confetti, and the walls rattled. The house, was it alive, hungry for her fear? A tremor of doubt pierced her heart. The laughter faded momentarily, leaving only the sound of her frantically beating heart in the suffocating silence. Tommy! She cried again, drawing up every ounce of strength. As she ventured closer to the light, she noticed it pulsed rhythmically, as if alive, sucking in her fear and exhaling something far more sinister. But then beyond the sickly glow a figure emerged. Mommy! The cry was pure, laced with innocence. Tears sprang to Anna's eyes. It was Tommy, standing just beyond the flickering edge of light, his form swirling with shadows but his face unmistakable. Come to me, Mommy. He implored, his voice drifting through the chaos, warm and tugging. Before she could answer, the light blinked out entirely, leaving her engulfed in darkness. Anna stumbled, her foot catching on something. Goosebumps prickled her skin, she didn't want to think what it could be. No! Tommy. Voices flooded in, low and seductive, filling the void. He's not lost, he's chosen. Chosen? She spat, shaking with disbelief, pushing against the weight of the dark. You can't have him. Suddenly, the shadows lunged again, but this time Anna felt their pulling insistence, almost like hands reaching for her, promising solace in the depths. Mommy, the voice drifted back again, soft yet hollow. Tommy. The name slipped from her lips like a desperate prayer. The shadows blurred at the edges, an indistinct swirl of countless faces swirling through her thoughts, faces of those lost, consumed by their own despair. Join us, Anna, they hissed, their whispers sending shivers up her spine. You will never be alone. But the last word resonated inside her, echoing against her resolve. I am not afraid. She yelled defiantly, channeling Tommy's laughter to ward off their hunger. The walls shuddered, and she bolted forward, reaching toward the place where she had last seen her son. Where are you? She cried again, desperation clawing her throat. With every step, the shadows clawed at her ankles, swirling, pulling her off balance, but she pressed on. Just as her fingers brushed against an object, a door. The whispering quieted, and the glow returned, blinding her momentarily. She squinted through the haze, and then she saw him. Tommy stood just beyond the threshold, his small frame flickering, distorted. Yet his eyes, they gleamed with innocence, and something darker. Mommy, it's okay. You can come in, he said softly, his voice echoing with a false assurance. Anna hesitated. An overwhelming wave of dread crashed over her as she felt the darkness beckoning, seeping from the doorframe, hungry for her. Step closer, Anna. Make a choice. The chorus coiled around her heart, pressing, squeezing, igniting her fear to an unwelcome flame. Against the chaos, part of her felt the tug towards Tommy. But the other part screamed for her to run. Would stepping over the threshold mean abandoning her own soul? She took a deep breath, heart racing, balancing between the light and the dark. It was a decision that could change everything. Tommy, are you really? But the words stuck, trembling on her lips, just as the shadows lunged forward again with an insatiable hunger, threatening to swallow her whole. What was on the other side? Salvation or more darkness? Anna's grip on reality wavered as the light dimmed once more, with Tommy still standing there, waiting and watching. As that final, chilling flicker of light flickered dangerously low, the shadows began to whisper anew. Anna felt her heart seize. What choice would she make? The ground rumbled beneath her as she stood on the precipice of a decision that might seal her fate. Was it too late? What lay in wait beyond the door? Anna stood at the threshold, the weight of the shadows pressing in on her, tantalizing her with whispers that swirled around, coaxing her into the abyss. She could feel it, their thirst for despair, for surrender, clamoring for her to join them. But beyond the veil of darkness, she saw Tommy, his figure pulsating with that flickering light, fragile yet fierce, a beacon in the terror enveloping her. Tommy. She breathed, her voice a desperate lifeline. But the sweet innocence of his face was marred by something sinister lurking in the depths of those eyes. You can come in, Mommy, all you have to do is trust me. His words toyed with her heart, filling her with dread and yearning simultaneously. Was this her son, or another trick of the darkness? The shadows twitched closer, alive with malice, murmuring cruel promises. Join us, feel the freedom of the void, they hissed, their fingers curling around the edges of her mind. No! Anna shouted, shaking her head violently, fighting the seductive pull. She had come so far, she wasn't about to lose him now, nor betray her love with cowardice. She took a tentative step forward, heart pounding fiercely against her ribs. Mommy. Tommy's voice quavered, tinged with desperate urgency that cut through the haze. I need you. Anna's resolve hardened. That was her son, the pure essence of love she had nurtured. She wouldn't abandon him to an illusion, no matter how inviting it appeared. I'm coming for you, Tommy. She shouted, each word an iron anchor to her will. That flicker of light grew brighter, forcing the shadows to retreat momentarily, their hushed murmurs faltering. Our bond is stronger than your love. You will see. With newfound determination, Anna pushed through the darkness, feeling the creeping tendrils pull at her like icy claws. She couldn't falter, couldn't let fear take over. Every moment stretched as she sprinted toward Tommy, a force of sheer will igniting within her. Hold on, my love. Just hold on. The echoes of her voice reverberated through the chaos, a promise forged in desperation. As she broke into the clearing, the shadows roared back, unleashing a torrent of clamor and laughter that surrounded her, vying for her attention. Choose wisely. They sang, anticipation thick in the toxic air. Or face the price of defiance. But none of it mattered now. All that mattered was freeing Tommy from their clutches. She reached out, palm open, straining toward her son. Please just reach for me. In an agonizing moment, the dark laughter reached a fevered pitch as the shadows surged forward, momentarily obscuring her vision. Anna felt their cold shock wrap around her throat, squeezing, dragging her down. But in that moment of terror, she caught a glimpse of strength, a memory of her son's laughter, the warmth of his small body nestled against her, the joy in his eyes. Fighting against the darkness, she surged forward, breaking free and shouting, "Tommy! Come to me!" And then she saw it, the way he was shivering, that flicker of hope in his eyes as he reached out, his small fingers stretching toward her. "I'm scared, Mommy." In that instant, the shadows roared in fury, launching forward to snatch him away. "No!" Anna screamed, the shattered echo of her voice charging the air, assembling the fragments of her heart back into resolve. "You won't take him from me." With one powerful lunge, she grabbed his hand, an electric connection surging through them. Time slowed, the tension palpable as the light exploded around them, blinding her senses. For a brief heartbeat, the shadows recoiled, shrieking in torment as if light burned them. "Mommy, I'm right here," Tommy cried, pure faith pouring from his voice, fueling her strength. "Together, Tommy. Always together." And in that heartbeat, the world shifted. An iridescent force surged from their hands, radiating a warmth that shattered the darkness. The void writhed and shrieked as blinding light cascaded, enveloping everything, purging the shadows back into the recesses they crawled from. Anna and Tommy were drawn forward, pulling away from that suffocating grip of despair. "No! You can't escape!" Came the howls, but Anna's heart surged. They were heavyweights of love, unyielding against the darkness. Finally, the abyss evaporated into nothingness, replaced by a brilliant, shimmering light that swirled around them, like the dawn breaking over a darkened horizon. Anna stumbled, shielding her eyes as they fell to the ground, the weight of the past melting away. The air felt lighter, clearer. She squeezed Tommy's hand tighter, hold steady, letting the warmth of connection anchor her resolve. "I'm here, sweetheart," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks, a mix of relief and unyielding love. "You're safe." He grinned widely, the innocence in his laughter blossoming like sunlight cutting through clouds. Together, they stood beneath an empty sky. The haunting whispers of the desert faded into echoes, mere remnants of the nightmare they had escaped together. They were free from the shadows and the horrors of the past layered in their hearts. As the twinkling stars enveloped them like tiny diamonds scattered against deep indigo, Anna took a deep breath. "We'll find our way home," she promised, a new dawn rising before them. And in that moment, she knew, together they could face anything. This was their escape, their realm of light, a blessing marked in love and unwavering courage. They had faced the darkness and emerged radiant. The desert held its secrets, but this time, Anna would choose to walk in the light, carrying the strength of sacrifice against whatever shadows might come, again together forever, never to fade away into whispers. Now, as we wrap up this wild journey into the heart of darkness and light, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your love for these tales. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us hear your thoughts. Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions, so join the community.